To create a CRUD operation in Angular, go to my blog. It's present in the C# corner. Go to my computer and create one folder and open this folder in a command prompt to create an Angular app. And write ng new Angular Crud. So here I am going to create Angular Crud operations. So my project name is Angular Crud. Press enter. Added routing, yes. Here I am using Sass instead of CSS. So now my Angular app has been created successfully. Let's open in a Visual Code. For this, select this folder, write cmd, and here you write code space dot to open this code in a Visual Code. So now my app has been created successfully. Next step, to install a Bootstrap in our applications. For this, run this command. Bootstrap has been installed successfully in our application. Go to Angular.json file and copy this command. I have mapped my Bootstrap file in our applications. Next step, to install a PrimeNg, because in our application I am using PrimeNg table and buttons. For this, visit to PrimeNg site using this URL and follow all instructions. PrimeNg internally it's use this Angular CDK also. So let's install. Now my PrimeNg has been installed successfully. Next step, to register all PrimeNg CSS in our application. For this, go to PrimeNg site, go down, see PrimeNg, these three CSS files is using. Copy all files, go to our code and paste it. Next step, to create a component. So here I am going to create 4 components: home, user list, add users, and NavBar for navigations. So open a command prompt and write this. Go to your source code, go to src and app folder. Open this app folder in a command prompt. For this, I am opening this folder and So in our app folder, go inside the app folder and run this command to create a home component. Yes, home component has been created successfully. Let's check this. Okay, so now I'm going to create a user list component. For this, go to command prompt, app folder, inside app folder, run this command. So now I have created all required components. So next step, create a service, Angular service, by using this command. I have mentioned service slash user. So in this case, my service code present inside a service folder. If you don't want, just remove it. Normally write a user. So my service has been created successfully. Next step, to create a user model. Write ng class and user to create a class, TypeScript class. Go to our code and open a user model and paste this. My user model contains these properties: IDs, names, email, mobile, gender, DOB, date of birth, is active, range, and user types. Open a user service. Go to service folder and user.service.ts file. Inside a TS file, create one user object. So for Crud operation, I want get some methods: get users by ID, add users, update user, and remove method. Let's create. So now my service has been created successfully. Just copy this service name, go to app component and register our service. Like this. Because here I am using a NgPrime, so I need to import some NgPrime's component modules for this. So let's do it. Browser animation is animation module, it's a part of Angular. And these four modules belong to NgPrime and reactive form, because in our application I'm creating a reactive form. That's why I import this form module. It's required if you want to use ng module to web data binding in your Angular app. Next step, to go to routing file and create a route for this. So go to our application and open app routing module. Here you create some route for your applications. Import all components, pressing a control dot. First time when launching your application, it's loading a home component, and after home component, if you calling a user routes, it's loading a user list component. If you adding and removing update, add a new user, that time is calling add component, and update also is using same. Next step, go to app component, remove all this, go to my block and copy this code. This router outlet at runtime replace with our component based on our routes, and app NavBar is belong to the nav component. Here I am rendering a nav component. So this, using this selector, I am rendering this nav component in our app component. So next step, let's create a NavBar. So copy this command, open our application, go to nav component.html file, remove this code and paste it. So for link, nav link, here inside the anchor tag, I am using a router link instead of href, because when you using a href, every time each and every click href reload our application. But because here I am working in a single page application, so I don't want this. So Angular suggested every time use this route link. If you want to attach activation class, that time you use this router link activate in this class. When this link is active, that time this active class automatically added and removed. Now my nav component has been created successfully. So let's run our application and check. So go to command prompt and open your project in a command prompt and run ng serve -o to launch this. Now my NavBar has been created successfully. So let's run our application and check it's working fine or not. So go to our project, we will to explore. My build has been created. See, NavBar is appearing. User route also appearing. So let's work on this user list component. Close these applications. Go to user list, type script file, copy component code and paste it. And resolve dependencies. So here I have initialized three variables. In this variable, I am storing all users' informations, and I have used this. I am going to use this variable in a HTML file. So inside a constructor, I am just injecting my service, user service. I am creating an object for this, and on init, I am getting all data. I have created one dummy user, so it's returning a one user in first time. These next, previous, reset, and last, and is first piece, all methods belong to PrimeNg table. Go to this link and check if it's required. This method I have created to remove a particular user. When you click the remove button, copy this user list HTML and paste it. So I have used this user list here to provide data in a table. In this table here I have defined all columns. Here I am how to get this column value I have defined here. So here this PrimeNg, whatever I have passed in this object, I am getting each row here. Let users. So here in a user variable, I am getting one row at a time. So it's every time iterating and creating a whole table based on your object. Here I have created two action methods. One for is edit and other for is remove. And in bottom I have added one button to register a new user. So here I am just redirecting to a add user route by using this. Let's see. So user list component, it's working fine. So when you create a add new, it's redirecting to the add user routes component. Add user routes. It's showing a add user component. So let's start working on this. For this, go to add users component ts file and define these two variables. Close this file because it's no longer required. Go to ts file, you add user ts file and define two variables. Import dependency accordingly. Next step, to inject these services. Go to constructor and paste it. Activate routes. It's providing all routes parameter. Router, if you want to navigate from one route to another, you use this service. And form builder, to create a form. Here I am using reactive form. That's why I have imported this form builder to create a reactive form and register just inject the user service in our applications. Inside a constructor, create a form. In this form, I have created these many fields based on a class. Here it contains name, mobile number, email. In a user form, it contains these many fields: name, mobile, email, gender, DOB, ID, is active, range, and user type, same as my user model. So here I am using some validation. For this, I want to import validators service. That's it. So in name field, I have used required, and email I am using valid email validator as well as pair. regex validator. It contains false validator. Let's just check and add accordingly. Go to NgInit and fetch route information. When you clicking on edit user button, so it's calling a edit user routes. So you get this route user ID from your routes. To get this route details, to call this router activate, create an object of router activate service and call this params method and subscribe it. If I got ID, if ID is present, so in this case means I want to update my user. So that time, based on an ID, you set this ID in your user form, and after that you get this data, or based on ID, get this data from your service and populate it and set all data in your form by you calling this method set values. Here I am calling a service getting all data. I have stored all data in this variable constant. If constant data is present, so it's going inside and setting whatever he got. He just set all values by using this in a form. You are using a user form. This is my form name and calling a set values method to setting all data. Next step to create a save method. Here, when you calling a save method from HTML file, it says checking form is valid or not. If it's not valid, it's just returning a back. It's not doing anything. And if its form is valid, means all validator whatever I based on my validation, all validations successfully executed, means form is valid. That time is going inside and checking user ID equal to 0. If user ID is equal to 0, means this is a safe request. If user ID greater than 0, means it's a update request. So it's just doing his task accordingly. And once it's done, it's calling a route navigation method to navigate from add user component to user list component. Copy this add user component HTML. Go to add user component HTML and paste it. So in my TypeScript file, I have created a user form. So here I have mapped my user form like this. Form group equal to user form, and user form contain multiple properties. So here I'm creating a normal HTML tag help HTML code, Bootstrap code, and in this code I'm calling this form control name to get a name data. For validation purpose, I'm dynamically adding and removing a is invalid class based on a conditions. If based on a filter, if filter it's returning a false, that time this invalid value it's true. If it's true, it's checking a form mean is dirty or touched. Dirty if you change anything. In a text box, if you write and remove anything, that time dirty return true. Other if you touch this field, so that time it return true. This touch field returning a true. So in both cases, I am showing a error. You change something and you touch or you touch respective field, but after touching it's showing a invalid, so that time this message appears. In an email, here I have two messages. One is I am using two validations. One is required validation, other one is invalid email validations. So here invalid property it's required if any validations fail, it's returning a true. And based on the dirty and touch, if it's there, so I'm adding and removing this class. And after that, you show message based on your validations error. So for this, I'm in this form, I'm getting this field data using get email. I have created mail control. So I'm getting all data by you calling this method. I'm checking has error is required or not. If it's returned true, that time I'm showing this message. Otherwise, I'm showing this message. In a bottom, whatever user enter in a form, it's showing all record as a JSON in a page. For development purpose, just check a value updating properly or not. Let's check. So now my form is ready. Let's create new user. Select date of birth, select gender and user type, and click save button to save this record. So my record has been saved successfully. If you want to edit this record, click on edit button and change this name on new and click update button to update the same. If you want to remove this record, just click a remove button to delete this record from your service. In our example, I am using a internal object, but in a real application, he is calling a API. So every time he is calling a API and getting some data and sending some data. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.